Call the meeting to order. City of Anamosa City Council agenda regular session, Monday, September 27th, 2021, 6 p.m. Anamosa Library and Learning Center, also via Zoom. 1.0 roll call.
Crump,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Mockart,
Here.
Zumba, Stout,
Here.
Friend,
Here.
5 members are present. 2.0 pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
3.0 approval of agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Jeff. Council discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve the agenda carried unanimous. 4.0, motion to approve the minutes from the following meetings. 4.1, September 13th, 2021, regular city council meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by John. Council discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve carried unanimous. 5.0 public hearings, none. 6.0 proclamations, none. 7.0 old business. 7.1 downtown facade project update, discussion and possible action of change orders 9 through 13. Derek Lumsden.
Good evening. So to update you some where we've been the last month, hopefully you've seen some of the work going on downtown. They've tore open a few more buildings. As you know, from one of my earlier reports, the aluminum for all the storefronts had been delayed. So they've been taking their time doing what they can and opening up the other buildings. So I think we've got all of them open now except for 205, the other vendor village entrance. So according to Andy, they should be getting the aluminum in this next month in October so they can start fabricating the storefronts. And then once those are done, those pop in pretty easily since everything else is framed out. What they'll be doing for the next couple of weeks, obviously this week, they're trying to keep it a little on, not as active because they know Pumpkin Fest is coming in and some of that stuff starts on Thursday. So they're just coming in, doing some odds and ends. Today, they were painting the Barner building and they're going to do some interior work on a couple of the buildings to get them ready for their storefronts. But this week it'll be sort of low key, but then starting next week, they should have some of the upper story windows in so they can start popping those in and getting everything cladded out, trimmed, and hopefully painted. So when the storefronts come in, they can move directly down. Talking with Andy today, we're still on track to be done prior to Christmas. There'll probably be a couple of touch-up paints and stuff in the spring once we see how it weathers the winter. But for the most part, everything should be done by, I think, mid-December, so prior to Christmas. So my last update in December should give you a rough idea that we have a few odds and ends to take care of in March and April, but otherwise we should be roughly done. Questions for me? I don't know if there's any questions on the change orders or not.
There's no other questions for Derek. We'll approve the change orders.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Any further council discussion? Public comment. All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve change order carried unanimously. 7.2, review and approval of pay application number 3 to Tricon in the amount of $181,803.50 for the downtown facade project.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kay. Further council discussion? Public comment? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve carried unanimous. 7.3, review and approval of engineering agreement amendment with Origin Designs for the Gabion Wall Replacement Project. Nate Miller, Julie Nebel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, glad that worked out. Well, thanks for taking the time from giving me a chance to speak today. So we've been making some progress on the FEMA administration portion of getting that Gabion basket wall replaced. We're kind of in the last phases of getting the FEMA approval. There's some additional work that we're doing right now, kind of with potential endangered species and zebra mussels and things. But we feel like we've kind of got it to a point and a concept now that we can kind of proceed with the final design efforts. And so the contract that we have in front of you there is for us to go ahead and proceed with that final design. That's going to include, doing concrete retaining walls all the way along Stallion Creek from Old Dubuque up to the bridge on Division. We kind of have a turnkey kind of contract where we're going to go ahead and take care of all of the components of this and really try to minimize the amount of involvement and time that you guys need to have associated with this project. I don't know if you guys have any specific questions or things about that. You know, it's a FEMA administrative project, so the guy could talk at length about some of the pieces that go into it, but I don't want to bore you with the details either.
When you say concrete, is it solid concrete or the big concrete blocks?
This is going to be poured concrete, so it's solid reinforced concrete.
Like what you'd have on a new basement, basically.
Yep. Very similar. We're going to have, sizable footings and keyways underneath to keep everything stable. And it'll just be smooth, solid poured concrete.
Any further discussion or questions? For the record, would you state your name and company you're representing?
Yeah, my name is Nathan Miller and I'm with Origin Design.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Need a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve. Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. Is there any further council discussion? Is there any public comment? All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve carried unanimous. Nate, thank you for your time and presenting.
He's on the next one too.
He is, yes.
Well, I can just keep carrying on.
Just let me make the agenda item. 7.4, review and approval of engineering agreement amendment with Origin Design for the Division Street Bridge Replacement Project. Nate Miller, please restate your name and company.
Yeah, I'm Nate Miller with Origin Design again. And so this phase of the project includes replacing the bridge on Division Street and then the pavement and utilities that are associated with that would be outside of the scope of what FEMA would cover as part of the previous discussion. There's a portion of the street that will be covered that will be required to be replaced to install the concrete retaining walls, but anything outside of that's kind of outside of FEMA scope. And so in talking with Beth and the utility folks down there, it really makes sense for us to carry out the design and construction of these projects simultaneously. There's certainly going to be some savings by having both projects go at the same time and have a single contractor complete that work. And so right now we have included in this to do the design for a box culvert to go on Division Street replace the paving, and then doing some additional water main and sanitary sewer replacement as well.
So will the bridge be like the one that is over Sycamore Street at the other end of the creek?
They used to be rough and then they replaced it with a cement bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a reinforced concrete box culvert, so it will be very similar to the culvert that's on Old Dubuque there.
Okay.
It'll be a little different in that we probably will have the roadway being carried directly on top of the culvert. And for all intents and purposes, you won't really be able to tell the difference. But just with some of the constraints that we have with the associated utilities, we can't get the box culvert down far enough to accommodate the additional fill. But it's a common design that we've incorporated previously with a lot of success. We're also including some pedestrian accommodations with a separated sidewalk over top of the structure, and as well as, approaches coming up the side too.
So the travel portion of the bridge will remain the same width?
We're going to widen it out a little bit.
You're gonna widen.
Yeah, we will widen it. It's going to be wider than what's there. It won't be the full width of the roadway, say north on Division Street. It's going to taper in a little bit, just due to the constraints of the channel, but it will be wider.
Do you have a start and completion date?
For our design work or the construction work?
The construction.
For the construction, since these two projects are going simultaneously, it's going to be a stretch to get the construction done next year. So it will likely be 2023 construction, and it would be a single season of construction. We're going to expedite our design efforts to get the design in hand as soon as possible, and kind of assist the city also with trying to see what other funding sources are out there, and just making sure that, everything that we can do to get it done as quickly as possible, but at the same time, making sure we catch the right bidding environments and making sure that we're eligible for as much funding as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Council, any
Oh.
other questions?
I'm gonna move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay to approve the agreement. Council discussion. Public comment? All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve carried unanimously. I
Aye,
don't see
certainly.
you listed anymore. Nate?
Nope, I think that's all I had. I certainly appreciate the time, and we'll be working closely with you as we kind of work through both of these projects.
Very much appreciate that. Look forward to the partnership.
Absolutely.
7.5, project status update from Snyder and Associates, Lindsay Beeman, Tim Wallace. Do not
I
see
don't see
either one of
on
them.
there. And every time I've sent them the packet, it seems to come back to me. So I don't know if there's something on their end that's not letting my packet come through, or what's happening with it, but I had talked to Lindsay last week, so I don't know if you have any specific questions on the memo or not. We should be closing on the Alliant Energy property for the flow EQ tank. I got the closing statement, and we're getting a check issued probably late sometime this week. So just waiting for the deed to come back. So that should push that along a little bit. We did have a discussion about the right-of-way and the right-of-way appraisal for the frontage road extension with the roundabout. So still waiting on the final from that. They should send it to me whenever they get it. And then I'll try and have a conversation with the property owner to see where they're at on that. Oh, what else do we have there? I don't have a lot of information on the Second Street lift station project. It's been, I don't know. Neither Steve or I have much information updated on that. So I'm again not sure where that project's at. We did look at additional scope though with putting water, since we're tearing out everything, whether we're going to replace water main for that too. So that could be, we may be waiting on the design for adding the water to it. We did talk about the water line or the water main running out for the Old Dubuque Road extension and where we were locating that as well as the trail. So I think our last discussion was we were going to try and extend the right of way out farther, probably 4 or 5 feet, so that the water main didn't have to be underneath the trail. Otherwise, if we had something that we had to do with the water main, we'd have to dig the trail up. Or if we put it on the other side of the road to put the taps in for whatever builds on that other side, they'd have to bore underneath of the road. So it was kind of a draw, and if you have any opinions on that, let me know. If you'd rather have us move it to the other side, keep the right of way smaller, have whoever hooks up tap by boring under, that's fine. It kind of passes that cost on instead of us putting it on the other side,
You're talking about the sidewalk trail at the middle school.
right? So yeah, it put the water main on that side so that it'd be closer to what would be developed. But it's not the most convenient. But to have it on the other side does require boring underneath to get the tap.
Okay. I do have one question on the Old Dubuque. Part of this, it says we recommend pushing the letting date to February 2021. And then it goes on to say, please confirm that the city is agreeable to this. We probably need clarification. Do they mean February of 2022 or are
Yeah,
they
'cause
still looking?
We're already past
Yeah,
February.
are they
2021.
still looking at later in 2021 and
Right.
maybe December?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
Okay,
I know we're a little ways out yet, so it could be February of 2022.
well, I'm hoping they're not meaning February of 2023.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
would hope not.
So let's
Yeah.
get clarification
You know
on
what the
that.
hold up with DOT is? I mean, I think they would be supportive and be excited about this project, but yet they're the ones dragging their feet on it. We have a.
Oh, as
the
far
DOT.
as the
It says
DOT,
we're waiting on, we won't have the final plans before the October 19th deadline for submittal. That's why we get pushed back a month. Stay on track for January 2022 bid letting.
oh, for the bid letting, correct.
Final plans are due on October 19th.
Well, we should be close to final plan since we talked about putting the water main on that side, so we should be able to make that deadline. And that would make it.
Oh, well, then there's a type, we recommend pushing the bid letting date to February 20, that's February 2022.
22,
So
I
basically
would
it's
think.
pushing it back a month. Because on the schedule down below, it says bid letting January 2022.
Okay. Okay.
Do you need anything from the council to move this forward with?
No,
I know in the past, the council has asked that Snyder, representative from Snyder and Associates be in attendance. Preferred to be in-house. Understand that schedules and distance to travel sometimes doesn't align. I would expect the monthly update to include their presence, whether it's in-house or virtually.
Right.
Could you?
We've had
pass
that
along?
discussion. We have had that discussion already. Yes. I have passed that along. That's why I'm not sure if they just didn't, if they have some different spam filter that's kicking out, because I did get a mail.
Did you try calling
Warning.
after you got kicked back? Like, you check calling to just to let them know about the email? about
No,
the
because the
meeting?
last time it kicked it back too, but they were still here. So I wasn't sure if it was just a filter or if they just have to do something with Zix to get in the packet
Maybe just-
itself, but
Set the task order, but like when you send it out, just if you don't, if it pops back, just give them a quick call and say, hey, you're on the meeting next week.
yeah,
Or just, can you send
they
them?
know, they send me the.
They know,
Yeah,
send
they're
me
sending
know
the
they're
packet.
supposed to be here. They're supposed to be professional. Come on.
And they can go out to the website and pull it in.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Seven point six, project status update from HR Green, Andrew Marsh, Josh Scanlon.
Good evening. My name is Andrew Marsh from HR Green in Cedar Rapids. We have several things on the agenda this evening. I think I can help to answer any questions that you might have. Please feel free to interrupt me as I go through. You should have in your council packets an update on all of our active projects that we're working on with the city staff right now. The first is the Sycamore Street Rehabilitation Project. After I was here last time to give you an update on Sycamore Street rehab and talking about the need for the temporary easement before the project could move forward in construction, I did have a lengthy conversation with the homeowner. And I don't know if you want the long version or the short version of the conversation, but one of the expectations from the homeowner was for the city to replace the entirety of their sidewalk, not just the affected sidewalk, but the entirety of the sidewalk. And after discussion with the city staff, that's really not on the table and not really a request that we can meet because it sets a bad precedent for other projects in the future. So we took that as a challenge to us and we went back to the drawing board and we challenged the team that did the design to go back to the drawing board, so to speak, and see if we can figure out a way to redesign the project at our expense to avoid the need for the temporary easement from the homeowner and just remove that requirement from the project. And I'm happy to tell you all this evening that we were able to come up with a way to redesign the project so that the project can move forward without the need for a temporary easement. I'm happy to elaborate on all of the other things that we talked about with the homeowner, but in the interest of time, I think that's the long and the short of it, is that we figured out a way to do it without the need for an easement. With that, the project we can resubmit the final plans and we can go out to bid whenever you would like. Now, having said all that, there's one other complication, and that is that the city staff did have an occasion to televise the sanitary sewer in the street, and it was in rough shape, and the city staff would like to add the sanitary sewer rehab and the associated street repair and restoration to the project. So a little bit later this evening in your council packets is an amendment to add the sanitary sewer and street rehabilitation to add into that same project so that when it bids, it can bid all as one package, so to speak. So that's my shortest possible update on the Sycamore Street project for you all, unless there are questions.
I do. I live on that street, opposite end. I talked to, what was it, Jeremy?
Yes.
He called, very appreciated. He called me and I had got some questions I had answered. What is, if weather permitting, what is the length of this project? I know you run into things, but what's,
Jeremy's
think?
the one that deserves all the credit, by the way, for figuring out a way to do it without the easement. That's, the schedule is up to you all. I think, you know, Beth and I can work through the funding and the bidding schedule. It's entirely up to you all.
I mean, like when they start the project, do you have a rough idea from being you got to add the, which needs to be the sanitary sewer, it's going to take more. I just wondered 6 weeks, 2 months. I mean, I had no idea. I just, neighbors were kind of wondering how long it was going to be tore up.
Right. I think it will be several months when you start to finish for the whole project, given the different aspects of the project.
Okay. So how much did that on Williams there where you got, you know, so you don't need the easement, that changed that much? It must have a little, or, you know, with that problem you was talking about on that corner, I just wondered what that.
The
changed.
grade within the right of way will change to get rid of those stairs and have an ADA compliant sidewalk for both Sycamore and Williams at that intersection. So it'll be compliant intersection.
Okay. Then the sidewalk still coming to the street and then back up?
Correct, but much more gradually, right?
Okay, no, that's good. to get.
Because there's a restriction. I'm not a street expert. I'm a water guy. But so I'm speaking a little out of school, but the grade is important because it's not just the intersection. It's if there was somebody in a wheelchair that needed to go up the sidewalk, that it's a
Yeah.
reasonable grade.
Okay, and just wondering, kind of hard to visualize, you know.
Sure.
but That's, and like I said, the gentleman the other day was very good with these
Good.
answers, so appreciate it.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Good, very good. The five-way intersection TEEP study, we're scheduled for a kickoff meeting there. Not much else to say about that project. It's just getting underway. Item 3, the Jordan Wells number 6 project. We had a construction kickoff meeting earlier this afternoon. City staff was present and our 2 contractors, one for each of the 2 bid packages, were all present. And so now we are underway. We don't have a schedule yet from the driller. As soon as we have that, we'd like to work with you all to make sure that the nearby residents have notice, whether it's a door hanger or some other public information, so that they're all aware of the project and the impacts. And of course, there'll be certainly a noise disruption for the duration of the drilling. The driller did say that he was only planning on taking about 6 to 8 weeks to drill the well, which is great for the nearby homeowners, but just a little less optimistic that it's a deep well, so we'll see how long it takes. We'll see. And then the GIS is an ongoing effort, and not much to report there at this time. Are there any questions about our monthly update? Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's very
you.
thorough.
7.7, discussion possible action on TEEP study participants.
So the TEEP study kickoff is October 11th, 11 a.m. It'll be at City Hall. I believe he also has a Zoom link. I didn't know if there were a couple of volunteers. that would like to participate in the meeting or whoever's available from council. I also figured I'd invite someone from the school, more than likely Larry or whoever he can designate.
That would be a Monday and be Columbus Day, so I will be off, so I could be there.
Okay,
I will be there because when I go through that intersection, I need all the help I can get.
okay. Sounds good.
What's the date?
October
October
11th at 11. And I can't have more than 3.
Where's it
Or it
gonna be,
becomes a
Beth?
meeting.
Where's it gonna be?
City Hall.
I'll try, I'll try to be there too.
Okay.
We need to approve 3
No.
individuals, so there's no action.
You don't need any action. I just wanted to make sure everybody was offered the opportunity to participate if they wanted to.
8.0 new business. 8.1 review and approval of engineering agreement with H. Gar Green for the Booth Street main replacement. Andrew Marsh, Josh Campbell.
Hello again, Andrew Marsh with HR Green in Cedar Rapids. So in front of you this evening is an agreement for engineering services for the Booth Street project. It's a project that Beth and I have been talking about for quite a while. There are several drivers for the project. First and foremost is the lead and copper rule, which is an effort from the federal government to replace lead and copper service lines from the water main to homes. And it is something that has gotten a great deal of attention following the Flint, Michigan lead water quality issues that was in the news a couple of years ago. And it's still an issue today where there are thousands and thousands of lead service lines from water mains to homes. Anamosa has done a fantastic job of mapping and documenting where those are. That's a good first, it's an excellent first step. And then, of course, the next step after it's documented where lead service lines are is to replace those. So the first driver is the lead service lines to the home. The second driver for the project is Anamosa has taken a more proactive approach to replacing aging water mains. Water mains have a defined design life, and just like everything else, eventually it will succumb to nature and need to be replaced. So second driver for the project is to replace the aging infrastructure, which is the old water main. Third driver for the project is to improve some of the stormwater characteristics. It's a 3-block project extending not just for Booth Street, but then First and also Ford, where there are some lingering stormwater issues that need to be addressed. And then lastly, it's an effort to combine the different city departments and do projects collectively so that all of the area can be improved at once. So we're not just doing the water main, but we're also fixing all of the other utilities concurrently. So those are the drivers for the project. Again, the project area is Booth Street, First and Ford. And Beth and I have been watching very closely the news on the federal infrastructure bill that has not been passed yet, but is believed to have last reported 15.7 billion with a B dollars for cities for lead and copper projects. So we're hoping that this proceeding with this project in a timely fashion positions us for hopefully what will become funding for the lead and copper funding that hopefully will be coming to all of the cities in the United States, and that this will get us positioned for a shovel-ready project, so to speak. That's the Booth Street project in a nutshell, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Street, will that impact the right of way and the sidewalks and that?
Yes, good question. Yes, it will affect the sidewalks. So the water main is going to be, I believe, in the eastern side of the road, in the right of way between the sidewalk and the street. So that, I believe, will require the eastern side of the road sidewalk to be replaced.
That I was getting at that. That's not a bad thing because that's some of the worst sidewalks in town right there.
Good.
Not sure hazard.
Are they gonna do any sewer, are we gonna do any sewer work over there?
Great question. We did take a hard look at the sanitary sewer in that area, and for the same reason that I said before about the aging infrastructure, the sanitary sewer on those blocks that I just mentioned is in the alleyways. And it would be wonderful if we could, at the same time we're doing all this other work, move the sanitary sewer into the main street and have it more accessible and replace that at the same time. However, when we looked at the estimates for construction costs for what that would take and how invasive it is for homes to reroute sanitary sewer that currently discharges from a lower level basement, say, out to the alley and try to reroute that to the front yard, it is a significant financial undertaking and something that we decided wasn't would make the project too difficult to fund, basically, at this time. But great question. I think we might consider I've been starting a conversation with the city staff about a more proactive approach on sanitary sewer, to have a cleaning and televising program, and then prioritizing the sanitary sewer based on what's we see in the results of the cleaning and televising, and having that prioritized list. So I can't say for certain whether that Booth Street alley sanitary sewer would be high on that list yet or not, but I think we're trying to get that organized for your consideration on a citywide basis.
I just know it's not very accessible.
It is not. I think that's why we took a hard look at it, but unfortunately it's just cost prohibitive at this point.
Any other council discussion? Entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. Any public comment? All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve. Moving forward, the agreement carried unanimous. 8.2, review and approval of engineering agreement with HR Green for the well number 7 sitting study.
As I mentioned earlier, we're in the process of the construction for the well 6 project, which is the culmination of several years worth of work from the planning stages of well 4, knowing that it was 50+ years old now, and that the well is not going to last forever. And doing a siting study and looking at, we considered 4 different sites for the well 6 location, and working with the homeowners and eventually siting it where we did, and eventually getting it designed and permitted and bid. And now we're in construction, and that process took several years. for better or for worse. And so it's wonderful that we are in construction for well 6 right now. However, you guys have 2 active wells. Well 5 is 41 years old, I believe. So not too far behind in age. And the land around the water treatment plant is not getting any easier to site new wells. So again, with a proactive approach to at least do the siting study now to find the best location for the well replacement, and it should be siting study. It's not a sitting study. I get to sit plenty as it is. So we would like to start now, knowing that we're going to have to replace well 5 in the next 8 to 10 years, let's say. And planning for that, I think it's in everyone's best interest to try to find a home for that future well now and work gradually on securing that land after the siting study is complete. And whatever associated easements for raw water pipelines and whatnot to get that moving, because the land around the well, around the water treatment plant is not going to get any easier in the next 8 to 10 years to site a new well. And I agree that it's best to start that process sooner rather than later. That's the purpose of the siting study now. The other significant driver for this siting study is that, and I think I've mentioned this before, we're required to have, and this was a big issue with the well 6 that we're putting in right now. We're required to have 200 feet of legal control, a radius around any new drinking water well. And for one reason or another, that was never secured for well 5. And I would say there isn't 10 feet right now. So it really doesn't meet the letter of the law currently for well 5 in terms of wellhead protection. The intent is to have legal control of the land or immediately around the well to help prevent any possible sources of contamination that might impact the water quality for the residents. And so that's a key consideration that's needed in the siting of the replacement well. And it's a big reason why it's so important to address that, since it's not there now with well 5.
Well, I think this is a great thing to be doing it now. But you also have, there's another requirement too, isn't it? Like, is it 2,000 yards from an existing well or something? Or wasn't there something like that? I think we talked about one time.
That's a good point. It's a great point. So these are both Jordan Aquifer wells. And as you put Jordan Aquifer wells closer and closer to one another, they draw down the groundwater table. And if you get them too close, they can interfere. The distance is not set in stone. It's not a fixed thing. But we can model the groundwater surface to see what interference the wells have with one another, depending on they call it transmissivity or how porous the aquifer is, excuse me, between the two wells. So the siting study will definitely consider the proximity of the new proposed well location to the other well locations to make sure that it's not too close, because that interference is key.
And where is well number 5? I don't know that.
I believe it's called Liberty
It
Street.
is.
Yeah.
I believe it's called Liberty Street.
Go up Lynn Street, up toward the north end of that.
Yeah, that's not really 200 feet from any house either, but at that time, I don't think there was any restrictions like that.
It wasn't developed up there.
Oh, yeah, when it was put in 40 years ago,
Yeah,
a lot of them, but so it wasn't, didn't keep,
we didn't maintain control of
Control of it,
the
yeah.
perimeter.
Council have any further questions regarding the siting study? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Any public comment? All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to move forward with the siting study carried unanimously. 8.3, review and approval of engineering agreement amendment with HR Green for the addition of sanitary sewer to the Sycamore Street project. Andrew Marsh, Josh Scanlon.
So I think I mentioned this one a little bit earlier. So the Sycamore Street project is ready to be finalized and submitted. We, as I mentioned, city staff televised the sanitary sewer and it's in rough shape and we need to add another manhole for accessibility purposes that's not there now because the pipe just kind of dead ends at the top end of the hill. So we would like to incorporate that into the rest of the project so that it's all one comprehensive project. So this amendment is just for that sanitary sewer design and adding that to the project, and then we'll finalize the plans and submit those to the city for bidding and letting.
Was that still gonna run the same way, or are you gonna put it the whole length of the block on Sycamore, the sewer line from that manhole that you're gonna put in? Is that just gonna go west back to Davis then?
So I'm not an expert at the location of the sanitary sewer like Steve is, but I think the intent is to have it be a continuous sanitary sewer and have a manhole at the top of the hill. Does that sound right, Steve?
Steve Agnew, Utilities Department. Yes, it would make more sense to put a manhole at the top of the hill. What's on the west side of the hill still flow west,
Okay,
but what's on the east side, we can then jet. Because right now it's like a 4-inch line on the
yeah,
east side and we can't jet that. We'll blow it apart.
yeah,
So the west side, it's a 6 and it needs to be bigger. So that way the camera will fit up in there easier if we ever have another problem.
problem. Okay,
Steve, refresh our memory. What's the minimum for jetting and camera?
6 inches, the bare minimum, but my opinion is it should be 8. So we have just a little bit more room.
Sure.
So it makes it easier to get the tools in there and do a
In and
better
out.
job.
Maneuver, yep,
Yes.
agree.
how much is this gonna add to the project and how much is the engineering going to cost?
I believe the engineering is 11,200
200.
and the capital cost estimate for the sanitary sewer, I'm drawing a blank on at the moment. But I agree with what Steve said about the 8-inch and I can get that figure for you.
I'm gonna make a motion to approve it.
Second.
A motion by Galen, second by Rich. Council discussion? Public comment? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve the agreement amendment carried unanimously.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank you, Andrew.
thank you very much, Andrew, for being present and going over these topic items.
Helps a lot. Thank you.
8.4, discussion and possible action on entering into a mutual aid and assistance agreement for the Iowa Water Wastewater Agency Response Network, IOWAR.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Kay, second by Rich. Council discussion. Public comment? All those in favor of the motion signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve carried unanimous. 8.5, resolution appointing library trustees Edward Green and Randy Antons to 3-year terms ending June 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Any discussion, council? Does the public have any comment? Beth, would you please conduct the roll vote?
Smith,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Capron,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Motion to approve appointees carried unanimously. 8.6, resolution approving the official Iowa Department of Transportation annual street financial report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by Kay. Further council discussion? Public comment? Beth?
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Mockart,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 8.7, resolution hiring and setting salaries for utility superintendent and assistant superintendent.
we received 2 applications. Steve Agnich and Robert Young.
What's the
Recommend-
salaries now? I forget.
So Steve is at 62. Yep. And then Robert's at his regular salary. We'll probably look at changing his once he has his wastewater certifications completed.
Was I looking wrong? I was looking back in the summer and it was Steve was at 16, Robert was at 56. That,
Correct. And then July, we had our 3%.
so 50, so 3% from his 56, he's at is 57, 680.
Correct.
Basically no change.
Correct.
I guess. So opposed to combining the departments, but you guys are both certified in water and wastewater currently.
So Steve currently holds a grade 3 in water and wastewater. Robert has a grade 3 in water. And then he's began his process of getting his wastewater. The DNR has given him permission that he can test up to a grade 3.
I guess as we sit right now, there's no additional benefit to the city except for an additional cost of like almost $10,000. And that what's, you need to look at. Well, I guess it'd be $8,000. I mean, he's had, I'm glad he's got the certification. I'm just thinking for someone that's so new. I mean, I know he's got experience, but so new at the city and give him that big of a bump. I mean, are other people that are gonna be dual in both departments gonna get that big of a
So with,
percentage jump?
right, so with each certification, they'll receive $1. It will come in at less, just slightly less than what they would get currently for just one-sided certification. Or no, it'll be close to the same. So we kind of split out the dual certification for, benchmarks for the other employees.
So when Robert gets his grade 1 wastewater, that'll be $1 an hour then?
No, because he's going to be salaried because he will
Oh, that's-
supervise projects. So, no, we can have that discussion too, when that happens.
Well, and I think from a conversation we had, I don't know when, you said Robert would be kind of in charge of the outer areas doing construction and doing projects.
Yeah.
Where Steve would be more
Administrative,
administration internally and plus overseeing
right.
of things. So
And everybody will be digging holes, so.
As it sits right now, though, everyone's certification has been the same and it shifting around combined departments. But Robert's staying the same. Steve's getting the $8,000 raise.
So Steve's gonna be actually taking over administration of both. So he's gonna run the budget, he's gonna do all the bills, he's gonna oversee payroll, et cetera.
Weren't they doing that before, the two separate department heads overseeing the?
Correct,
the department?
separately. So right now, we don't have people that are, well, we have two people that are cross-trained, Bill and Jim. So they're certified in water and wastewater at the moment. But this will mean that all of them will be able to cross-train and to work in either department. So say was it last spring, when we had one weekend where we had no employees in wastewater? Luckily, nothing happened that weekend, but we did have one weekend where there was nobody in the department. Where this will eliminate that from happening again, because they'll be able to work in both departments.
Could we do cross training even if we didn't officially combine the departments together?
Possibly.
I'm
It-
not,
It's
I'm not
just a-
opposed to, I'm just to the taxpayer explaining the additional $8,000 benefit to the city. I guess I have a hard time seeing that. I'm not opposed to combining the departments, but that
Okay.
big of a jump.
Salary wise, we're still under where we were last year, even with that.
But
We're still
so
below our
prior to July 1, the two department heads were 116.
Last year on July 1, though, we had two people that were paid more than that.
Paid more than 60.
Yep.
So what were the two department heads making prior to July 1?
70 and 62. We're not spending more money, but we are going to get more of a benefit from having the ability to have everyone in both departments able to work in both departments. It's just less siloed. It's less, you only do this thing and you only do this thing, so that when things do come up, you do have everyone that can do all of it.
So will you develop a rotation so that maybe they work 1 month in wastewater, then the next month they're working at water, so that they stay up
Right.
and familiar with the rotations, that type of thing. Otherwise, if you get set at water and then maybe once a year, you only go down to wastewater, it takes time to adjust. So is that the plan?
Steve Agnes, Utility Department. Yes, Rich, that is the plan. The plan is to rotate everybody so everybody can get familiar with both. We'll kind of have to leave in the beginning, one person, so to speak, dedicated to running the wastewater plant, and one person, so to speak, dedicated to running the water plant. As we rotate and train, and they will actually be the last people that will go to either the water plant or the wastewater plant. But yes, so eventually we can, or the city can grow their own. So when, my predecessor left, this way, with us combining departments, the assistant then should be able to step up, take over when I retire. And you'll be growing your own indoor, internally. So I think this is be a big win for the city. I really do.
And it's kind of similar to when you worked for the city, people service, you did whatever
Yeah, we
needed to
did
be done.
everything. I mean, it was, one person was stationed at the wastewater plant, but we did water work too. Because you had to have somebody at the wastewater plant every day. But then when a water main break or something like that, I helped, so. And meter reading and all that stuff back in the day, because we had to physically read them back then. Didn't have the radio read. So Yeah.
To
I move
Jeff's
to
point-
approve.
Jeff's point, could the same cross-training plan be implemented without this?
Well, before, from what I was told when I first started here, everything was pretty taboo as far as
Separate.
trying to get, yeah, everything had to stay separate, and trying to get somebody to get cross-trained in the other field was really hard to do. So with the changes in management, I think we've been able to prove to Beth that this is a good thing, that we needed to be able to work together. And there's a lot more things that I think that we can get done. We're going to have the excavator showing up here eventually. By me taking over the admin, a lot of the valves and hydrants and stuff that's been neglected in town, or the city's been paying, contractor A, B, or C to replace. We can put Robert in the excavator, and he's got the experience. He can start teaching the other people how to do some of that stuff too. It's just,
It makes sense. I mean, my only thought is, could we informally combine it? Because I know like, and all you guys, like the streets department does a lot with Parks and Rec. And it's like, are we gonna combine those, or, it's just, do we need to formally, I'm just devil's advocate, do we need to formally combine them to have the teamwork? I guess it's my only thought.
As far as I'm concerned, theoretically, if we lived in the perfect world, we would not need to combine them. But with the history of the departments depending on who the department head is, not getting along with the other department head, and no, I'm not going to share back and forth. I like the idea of trying to come up with this team approach as opposed to having, say, offense, defense sitting there and then once in a while crossing over. This way we can structure, make sure we've got the rotation in place that we need to have, get people trained.
Not segregate equipment, your
Yeah.
equipment, my equipment. No, we've got equipment for the city, and that's a big cost.
Eliminate the bickering. Plus then I think it frees up, if it's all of a sudden we got a water main break. In the past, it's always been water people digging. This way we've got enough people to rotate, so not everybody's always going to be called in at the, we can split it up a little bit and spread the wealth on who has to work overtime maybe. So I think it's a valid approach.
Galen, did you move to approve?
Yes, I did.
I will second that.
So a motion by Galen, second by Kay, to approve the hiring and setting salaries. Any further council discussion? Public comment? Beth, please conduct a roll vote.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Crump,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes,
Capron,
Yes.
Stout,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 8.8, resolution setting public hearing date of October 11th, 2021 at 6 PM at the Anamosa Library and Learning Center for the status of funding activities for the Community Development Block Grant for the downtown facade project.
I move to set a public hearing for October 11th, 2021 at 6 PM at the Anamosa Public Library.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. Council discussion?
Clarification, is this technicality for the project we're doing now, or is this for like, a
Correct.
future- this is still this project?
Yeah, so once we get to getting to that 50% of funding, like where we've expended that, we need to have a public hearing, just so concerns can be addressed as far as how we're spending the funding.
And is there stipulations as far as like if we were to apply for future years, can you be under construction and still apply for another one? Or I don't know the timeline for
So,
applications.
no, we need to be done. We need to have wrapped this one to apply for the next one. However, we are looking at setting the meeting times for the next round.
The applications due end of the year, or first of the year. Do you remember?
I don't remember. Derek,
Derek?
CDBG applications?
For the downtown facades,
Yeah,
they're usually not due until sometime in April, or even the summer, kind of depends. I don't think they've set the date yet for
So
those.
it's the beginning of spring.
Yep, or I mean, like the one we did, it was July. So each year it kind of depends on when the state sets their CDBG guidelines, and I don't think they've come out for next year yet. But it'll be April at the earliest.
Possibly.
After
Still
the,
sneak in.
the
Right.
time of completion for this first facade project, is there a period of time that you have to sit idle before you can apply for a second project?
No, as long as we meet what the state considers substantial completion, which we should hit by Christmas, we're good to apply for a next one immediately, which would be the next round. So construction wouldn't begin until 2023 because we have to go through all the
Yeah.
design phase and
I
stuff,
guess
just like we did for this
What
one.
comes to mind is it could be closer on officially being done with this one and the paperwork we do for the next one.
Yep.
Is it something where we could do the preliminary of, is there enough building owners to do a second round so that we're.
We're doing that now. We sent out all the letters last week. The city sent them out. We're having our meetings next,
Oh,
is it next week?
yes.
Next week.
Yeah,
To determine who's still interested. And so probably on the, maybe even on the first council meeting of the month, but definitely the second one, you'll have the ability to do again, put out an RFP for an architect and do all the initial steps to get ready for that next
And
application.
do you have to have 10 or that's what we had, or?
Ideally, you want 10 to 12 is where I sort of try to peg it. And we easily had that left over from last time if all those are still on board. Plus, we've had a few more reach out. Great. Thanks.
Just to recap, I have a motion by Rich, second by John to set the public hearing. Council? Any public input? Beth, please conduct a roll vote.
Stout,
Yes.
Crum,
Yes.
Capron,
Yeah.
Smith,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Motion to approve carried unanimous. 8.9, review and approval of current bills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. Council discussion. Take it you're not raising your hand, Kay.
No, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Informational, the said office for 44,590 for shape and plumbing for air conditioner unit. Where was that at?
wastewater plant. They had a mobile unit that was not ideal and we put in a mini split.
Other council discussion? Public inquiry on the bills. All those in favor of approval signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to approve payment of bills carried unanimous. 9.0, city administrators report.
We're beginning the process of converting the system for utility billing. We should be live all the way by November 15th. So anyway, just plugging along on that and, you know, all the rest of this stuff. So I don't know if you have any questions. We've pretty much had a lot of project stuff on here, so that's mainly what's been going on.
Is there any- No questions for Beth? Thank you, Beth, for that report. 10.0, mayor and council reports. 10.1, mayor's report. I just want to encourage the public to participate in this coming Saturday's Pumpkin Fest. The committee that is tasking that certainly needs some good luck. Obviously, it had to be canceled in 2020 due to the pandemic. And in 2019, it was a complete washout. So they could use some ideal weather. please participate. You are around. 10.2, council reports.
The library had their monthly meeting. Sad to say, there weren't enough signatures to get the levy on the ballot. Glad to say ancestry.com has been renewed, so you can go find out about your family at the library. And finally, if you want to be on the library board, we still need one more person. I'll be done now.
Well, unfortunately, Kate, no one on this council can serve on that, so you're still looking.
I don't have a Parks and Rec report, but brought to my attention by a couple Pumpkin Fest people. Looking back, we approved the parklets to be out through the end of the summer 2021 for Pumpkin Fest. It was going to be moved for Pumpkin Fest. We want in front of T&D. That's what we approved.
What'd you say now? We
The
approved
minutes
for
of
what?
the May meeting were to have the parklets there through summer 2021. Now we're down, but we're in fall prior to Pumpkin Fest, having that space for vendors.
Okay. Was that the original motion?
I looked after it was brought to my attention. I looked back on the May 10th meeting because the motion was have them out through summer 2021. I know they have still vendors wanting to come in. And it's tight, so that-
So you need to utilize that space.
Yeah.
Do you have a vendor map?
I don't, but I know some of the other businesses are renting the Main Street space out in front of the business. Going along with their motion, I think we probably should move on.
There's only one.
It's only a month, but
Okay. I wasn't sure if you're referring to the original motion for when the parklets were first placed, because they were to be out left after Pumpkin Fest.
well, that's the
It was
motion, and I
from,
said-
it was from Mother's Day until after Pumpkin Fest.
Well, I looked at the minutes of the May 10th.
May
meeting,
10th?
It said,
Okay.
it said through summer 2021. People after that looked into it. I know after that, we had the discussion with the rag ride. That was kind of if they were gonna stay out for rag ride, but this year, this is the initial one mentioned tuck shoes. Will's had one.
Grounds and
Grounds and
goodies.
goodies.
But team user money.
Anything else? Eleven point zero, public comment for items not on the agenda. Hearing none. 12.0 adjournment.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Rich, second by John. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion to adjourn carried unanimous.